Okay, so we are talking about connecting with our authentic self. This is one of my favorite topics. Any of you who follow me on Instagram, you know I'm always talking about the inner guide, the diamond, the ba. All of these things are inside of us. Not all of these things, but these are names for this part of ourselves that is whole and that is eternal. And it has been with us since the day we were born. And all the other things that we have learned is actually separate from this part of us. And now what we need to do as we get older, as we are in our 30s and 40s and 50s, we actually need to start integrating those parts of ourselves and becoming more whole. So there's an authentic self and a journey of wholeness, moving towards wholeness, which moves us towards all that we can be, and all that we can be as all parts of us coming together and being integrated. So I will be talking about that today. So this is part of our agenda today. What is the authentic self? What does it mean? And how do we get there? How do we find this part of ourselves? Why is it important for us to connect to this part of ourselves, to live a fulfilling life? And I'll talk a little bit about work and then our relationships, and then what you will encounter on this journey. So parts of yourselves that you will need to connect with as you go on this inner journey towards yourself. And then practical tips on how you can start to connect more with that authentic self. What are some practices? What is the discipline that you are going to need in order to do this work? It is not for everyone because it does require a discipline. And if we look in our history, we look at traditions and wisdoms and religions, every one of them has practices that you need to do whether you feel like it or not. And that basically is connecting to our higher self, connecting to our inner self, connecting to God. Everybody has a different word for it. But in any connection that you're going to make that is whole and true, you are going to need to have some practices in place, and they're going to need to be done repeatedly, whether you like it or not. Okay, so for those of you who are raising your hands, there's one person who keeps raising his hand. I can't respond to that, and I will respond to questions at the end. So I cannot stop the talk and answer the raised hand responses, but I will get to the questions at the end. Okay, so what does it mean to individuate and to become fully yourself? Okay, to individuate is to deepen and mature our own individuality and our sense of authenticity. And you are born whole, inwardly whole, but you have lost parts of yourself along the way, because as we go through life, you know, a child doesn't know that they're making mistakes when they walk and they fall, and they step up and they fall, or they eat and they drop their spoon. They don't actually have any sort of mechanism to know that they're doing something wrong. But through our conditioning, through our culture, through societal messages, through media, we get these messages where we start to split off parts of ourselves and only step into this part of ourselves and develop this persona that the world will see. And this is the persona. So I have a persona that's a public persona, one that I do have when I'm alone, when I'm a mother, when I'm a sister, when I'm a wife or a daughter. We all have these personas, and these are parts of ourselves that we have developed throughout our life, through different feedback that we've gotten in those relationships, and we only bring that part of ourselves. So that's why you're like, am I being inauthentic when I'm so open and so free around this friend of mine, but I'm not like that when I'm around my, parents, for example? Well, why is that? And that is because through those feedback loops that you've had, you've actually split off parts of yourself and shown only parts of yourself in different, but in any case, there are things that nobody likes. Nobody wants to know that you lie. Nobody wants to see your anger. Nobody wants to know that you cheat. Nobody wants those things. So what we do is we really drop those parts of ourselves in our shadow. And the journey of individuation is to bring back some of those parts that we have sort of disassociated with and integrate them. Now, I'm not saying go lie and cheat and be angry. I'm not saying any of that, but saying that I lie, saying that I cheat, saying that I have cheated in one way or another. Maybe you've cheated yourself. Maybe you've cheated in a relationship, whatever it is that you do, where you're capable of doing these things. That's integration, and we move towards wholeness. And through that process, the authentic self actually really starts to surface, and you really feel this steadiness inside of you, and you become more of who you are. So this is not about going and finding yourself. It is really going back and putting these parts together, and that self will reveal itself if you just go back and inwards and search. So it's a little bit tricky, but I promise you that you will understand more as we get through it. And I think it's really hard to do this kind of journey because our culture is very much and more than ever before, really focused on extroversion, who you are, what you show, what you eat, where you travel. This is what most people are sort of looking at or showing to the world. So there's not a lot of contact with our inner world. And that authentic self, if you want to be less reactive, if you want to be less bothered by what people say, if you want to have a more fulfilling life, that is not going to exist outside of you. It is only when you've made that contact with yourself and made a commitment to go on this journey of individuation. And whether you like it or not, you are individuating. So no one told you, okay, honey, now it's time to start walking. Nope, you just started struggling one day, and some people walked a little bit earlier than others, but in any case, people start walking. No one tells you, okay, 5-month-old baby, time to roll over. No one says that. So we all have the potential to individuate, but what's getting in the way of that or slowing down the process is our lack of focus and our distraction and our preoccupation with the external world. So in the old days, when there was none of this technology, usually around 35, 40, this is when a lot of this kind of spirituality was rising inside of you. But nowadays with technology, it can happen earlier because we have a lot more knowledge. But if we don't use that technology well, it actually starts to hinder the process of individuation. So what is individuation, to be super clear? It is a lifelong journey. Like I said, the baby starts, and all the way until the end of your life, you will be evolving in some way. There will be parts of you that reveal. I don't know if any of you guys have read a book when you were maybe in your 20s, and then you picked it up again in your 30s, and the book feels like it was a different book because you are no longer the same person. Sometimes I feel like even from month to month, I'm not the same person, depending on how much work you're doing. But it really is this process of coming through to your wounds and coming through to your history with a different lens each year, each decade. And sometimes people get really frustrated with this because they're like, well, I thought I really figured my relationships out. And you know what? You did, for whatever you could do in your 20s, or whatever you could do in your 30s, or whatever you could do in your 40s. Like, it's gonna keep coming back. And each time it's like a layer reveals itself, because that's all you can process and that's all you can digest at that time. So it is a transformation that is happening, but it does go in these kinds of spirals. You don't just arrive one place and, oh, I have individuated. It doesn't work like that. It is really lifelong. And the more work you do, the more transformation and the more you have access to your potential. And what happens through this individuation journey, so it is this kind of loosening of a grip that the collective values have on you. And then you become more curious about what your personal values are. You guys have all heard of people who have done a lot of their inner work, and you see that, like, I just don't really care if this person doesn't like me anymore? Man, if you asked me that 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I was locked into that need for approval and need for validation. I just don't care anymore. Why is that? And that's the loosening of some of these collective values of you need to have this, or you need to be doing that, or if you don't do this, I won't love you. And it's just like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. But I would like to say that this is not about dropping all values. This is just about which values resonate with me that I got from my mother, my father, my religion, my culture, my media. There is good in all of this. So it's not about abandoning all parts of you, but really saying, wait a minute, let me question this a second. Does this resonate with my soul? Does this resonate with me? Do I believe that? That is becoming more into yourself, where my mom believed that, but I don't believe that. This is what I believe. And that kind of power of just knowing that this is who I am, that's what individuation and authentic self is about. And part of that individuation journey, it is living the questions and struggling. And then when the answers come, to live those and have the courage to live those answers. So it is not, oh, I wonder who I am. Oh, well, I think I'm this. And voila, here you go. It doesn't happen like that. It is a becoming. You don't become. It is a becoming. It is an unraveling. It is an unpacking. It is a transforming. So it's a journey of ing that's going to keep going. What it's not easy. If you really want to make a commitment to gain your authentic self, trust me, you ain't going to find it on Instagram on a tile. Do 5 things and here you go. It doesn't work like this. It really is a struggle in a world that is noisy, busy, chaotic. And I'm just going to, say that all of these emails that we get and the WhatsApps that we get, and if you have children, then all the emails that you get from your teachers, and I mean, these platforms, like, it's really a lot. And if I have 4 children, by the way, and trying to keep track of everybody, like, it's hectic. And no, let me go find some space for myself and like connect with my inner world. Yeah, it's a deep, deep, deep commitment. So that more hectic life gets, the busier life gets, the harder it is. Why is it that, Jesus has to walk into the desert and Moses had to get onto a mountain and the prophet had to go into a cave? These guys were prophets and very, very, connected to the source, but they still had to go away into a quiet space where they could hear the voice of God. Why? They couldn't hear it in the hustle and bustle around their life. They had to move away from that. So how do you create that quietness? That's not easy in this world. It is not a self-development program or self-improvement program. It took me like a decade to get onto Instagram. I just got on 2 years ago, but it really was like this resistance that no, it's not as easy as a tile. How do I explain to people that this is not about self-improvement? This is about a creation, a transformation, a unfolding that happens. And so how do I communicate that when everyone is just so like looking for a superficial, let me, 30 days to individuate? It's not like that. It is also not about arriving to a place. It is not also about acting from all of those parts of you. So what I just said, that there are people that we all lie. We all have cheated. We all have betrayed ourselves or someone else. We all have parts of us that we are ashamed of. We all lose our mind and move into a rageful moment. We all do it, okay? Whether you do it with yourself or someone else, it doesn't matter, but we all have these dark parts of ourselves. Now, when I say we need to integrate them and get them off from our shadow and bring them into the light and integrate them, I'm not saying go and just tell people off. No, this is not how you integrate. So this is not a permission, oh, I'm just being authentic, so let me just do what feels right. No, feelings sometimes tell you that you should just sit in your bed and eat chocolate cake all day when you've actually got to be a productive human being and have social responsibility. Feelings tell you that you should go tell that person off. That probably isn't right. So that without values, this authenticity can sometimes be misguided. And this is where a lot of people go wrong when it's like, well, I'm just being who I am. No, you're being the lower part of you. There's also a higher part of you that you need to be operating from. So it is not a permission to act from those low parts of you or the parts of you that are not consistent with your highest values. And individuation is not possible without engaging and erroring. So as we cultivate our intuition, which is our inner guide, you will make some decisions and you're like, I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, learn and learn. It is a learning process. So it's not like you're going to get it right. So if you're uncomfortable making mistakes, the journey's probably not for you, because you are going to come up against things where you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about this part of me. There will be this resistance that comes up, and there will be things that you confront that will be just too painful. It will come with that part as well. So why is it important for us to connect to our authentic self? Looking outward has got to be turned into looking into oneself. Discovering yourself provides you with all you are, all you were meant to be, and all you are living from and living for. Now, we could spend like probably a month unpacking that quote, but this is really all it's about. Where are you living from? Are you living from your cultural values? Are you living from a script that your parents gave you or your culture gave you? Or are you living from the inside out with something feels true and right to you? That's the place we want to be living from. That's the voice we want to be connecting with. That's the ground we need to be anchored in. And what are you living for? Is that also something that was handed down to you, or is that something that you really resonate with also? So I'm not saying the things that were handed down to me I'm going to throw out. I'm just saying, did I make that decision? I remember once when my mom used to tell me all the time to pray. We pray 5 times a day. Pray. Oh my God, mother. And so as a teenager, there were times where I would just go into the room and I would just look at my watch, wait 5 minutes, sprinkle some water on my face and come back out. I'm not suggesting anybody do that, but I'm just being honest that this is what I did. Because I was like, I don't have to pray 5 times a day. I swear my God hears me when I just say it once. But my pray. So I said, the day I go to college is the day I stop praying, because I think I've prayed enough in my lifetime for the next 3 lifetimes, because that's how I felt about prayer, to pray. And I got to college and I didn't pray. And I felt free. And I felt like, oh my God, I have no one telling me that I should be praying. And then something just didn't resonate. Something just didn't feel settled. 1 month went by, something just felt unsettled. Another month went by, maybe 2.5 months went by. And then I said, I think I have to pray. And I started praying. And that prayer that I prayed in college and for the rest of my life moving forward, that was a prayer that I prayed, not one that my mother told me to pray. That's what I'm talking about. Where are you living from? What are you living for? It's coming from the inside and you say, yep, this is what I want to be doing. That's what it feels like. It's a different feeling that shows up from the inside out. So being connected to your authentic self allows you for authentic happiness. When you really are connected to that authentic part of you inside of you, you're grounded in your personal values and your personal strengths. You know what you're good at and you know what you're not good at. When there's things that I'm just never going to be good at. And then there's things that I know that I'm really good at, and I'm going to do those more. And I'm going to try to learn some of the things that I'm not so good at. So when you come from that place, it just feels right. Roy Disney actually said that when you know what your values are, you never lose your way. So I don't need to have some script in my head about, assertiveness or this one, because now I'm really sure. that I want to operate from a place of kindness and truth. So I will tell you the truth. It might be hard for you to hear, but I will do it in a way that is kind, and I will own whatever it is that I can. These are my values. So it becomes easier. Life gets easier because you don't know, you're not looking for the answers in the book anymore, because you're operating from a place of, I know what to do here because these are my values. So it's still good to read books, but I'm just saying that answers come a little bit easier when you're connected to that part. Your inner guide is obviously more accessible, and this is your intuition. You can hear it, you can see it, you just know it. These are different ways of knowing. You have the opportunity to develop emotionally, spiritually, and go beyond your neediness, your wounds, your judgments of others. We all know it. We all know it, that we have these parts, and I just don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that. I want to live free and unbound to some of these things. We know we're all being stuck in some place, and we're, when we're not nice, we don't feel nice. Like, I want to go beyond that. And that authentic self of yours is none of that. It actually is none of that. And so how do I heal myself so I can let some of that part surface? Because think about your authentic self being here, and they're layer upon layer upon layer of learnings and wounds that sort of cover some of that. So some part of it still surfaces, and you hear that, oh, that doesn't feel right. And the louder your spirit, the more it's going to push up against you, and you're going to feel restless and agitated. And so that is what we're trying to get to. We're going to get to this part by healing some of these and integrating the learnings so you become more rather than shrink. So it becomes a bigger version of you, an expanded version of you, rather than what you just were born with. So you evolve, and you are authentically happy. What is authentic happiness? It is not what we see out here in this world. It is not just about going out and traveling and shopping and doing all of these pleasure, hedonistic ways of being, which, by the way, are not wrong. We should do that. There should be pleasure in our life. There should be moments of a complete abandon and surrender, but that cannot be all of our life. We cannot go from pleasure to pleasure to pleasure to pleasure. There's nothing happening here. So the complete definition of authentic happiness is a 3-part formula, which has been expanded to 5 parts, but I'll just tell you the 3, which is you live a pleasure life, a life of pleasure, a life that is good, which is where you are in a state of flow, where what you do all day gives you meaning. So it could be that you cook and you lose yourself in that. It could be that you draw and you lose yourself. It could be that you're an closet organizer and that you lose yourself in your work. That's what you spend your days doing. That's the life that is a good life. And then the meaningful life, that what you're doing all day is linked to something bigger than just you. It cannot just be that I bring myself happiness and I bring my kids happiness. No, we belong to each other, and we belong to this world. And how am I giving to this world? That's what you get more in contact with when you become more and more authentically yourself. Your life has more meaning. I cannot tell you how many people that I have sat across, especially in Dubai, where they say, I have everything. I've seen the world. I have all the clothes. I have all the jewelry. I'm not happy. I don't know why I'm not happy. Because happiness is the other 2 things. What are you doing that is your calling? And how are you making sure that you bring that gift to the world? That, if you don't have that, this ain't gonna get you happiness. And when you are connected to your authentic self, you really do live your calling out. Vocation. We used to live in a world where people lived out their vocation. They lived out their calling. Vocation comes from the Latin word vocatus, which actually means your calling. So I don't work. I have my day's work, but I'm living out my calling. And my journey has been a long, twisty, windy road to get to the place where I'm a psychologist, but this is who I am meant to be, not just what I'm meant to do. So when you know more of who you are, you're more likely to know that, well, no, this isn't it. This does not speak to my soul. This work that I'm doing is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So when you've healed some of that and you've heard some of that, you will be closer to that than you are. You will be able to listen to that inner guide. It'll call you. And if for some of you who don't know, like, what is she talking about, this inner guide? If you feel restlessness, agitation, this kind of like, there's something more, this can't be it. That's it. That's your inner guide. It's saying, this isn't it. This isn't it. And that doesn't mean you just sit there and wait for the calling to happen. No, you've got to go out there and try new things and more things. This purpose doesn't show up like a lightning bolt that hits you like a revelation. No, you've got to go out and try and error and, explore. And then you say, this is it. This resonates. It'll be a matching of an outside activity with an inside resonance of a soul. That's your calling, but you don't get it unless you're going out there and trying to do the matching. So it is a experiment that you might need to engage in. Oh my God, I talk too much. I swear I'm going to get to how you do this work, but I'm just trying to get you to feel what that authentic self is. All right, here we go. So what do you need? So I'm going to take you through all of this stuff. Okay. Some things you're going to need to keep in mind. These are just like top line, guys. Before you get on the journey, these are a few things you need to know. Then these are some of the things you're going to need to cultivate in order for you to stay on this journey, because it is a journey and a lifelong one. So I'll tell you a little bit about this stuff as we take you through it. All right. So some things to keep in mind. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the hero's journey, but Joseph Campbell, who was a mythologist who was also very inspired by Jung, and Jung was very inspired by him, they talk about our life as a hero's journey. So if you look at any story, a book, a movie, my life story, your life story, you will see there's a pattern. It's called an archetype. It's literally a pattern. Like, this sounds pretty familiar, where there will be a calling to adventure. And the calling can come in all sorts of ways. It can be a death. It can be a crisis. It can be an agitation. It can be, there's got to be something more. There will be a calling that you will have. And most people will refuse the call many times. They'll be like, yeah, let me go distract myself. Let me go do this. Let me leave my wife. Let me leave my husband. Let me run away from home. Let me do all sorts of things to avoid actually going on this journey that is asking something of me. So we will distract ourselves or numb ourselves or Netflix ourselves or social media ourselves, but we will not take the journey. And then one day you will have tried all of those things and there will be a call and you will say, you know what? I think I need to go. I need to go on this journey, and you will meet your mentor. It will come in the face, in the face of a friend or a therapist or a mentor or someone you work with or someone you sat on the airplane with, whichever one, it's going to show up as a mentor. And then you will actually go through lots of trials and tribulations. It is not an easy path. Go back in history. Look at all the great men and women that have ever existed and have done something meaningful for this world. Most of them struggled in one way or another, or they were orphaned, or they were outcasts, or they were shunned, or they were persecuted or prosecuted. These are the trials and tribulations. People might run back and just say, I don't want to do this anymore. But this is where the growth happens. And this is literally the breaking of the butterfly. And then you go into this dark night where there is nobody there. The mentor won't be there. Your friends won't be there. Your family won't be there. And this is where you are all alone, sort of doing the work. Something is happening in your psyche, transformation, and then a return back home. And now you will do it again and again and again and again throughout your life. I can think back to my high school days or my, adolescent days where a coach was there and I went through my dark night and I lost so many of my friends. And then this happened. And then I was all by myself and transformation. And then I came back out. Then again in my 20s, then again in my 30s. And I just won't tell you anymore because then you'll know how old I am. But the journey keeps going. And as you see, the older you get, the journey gets shorter and shorter. So usually it's 5 to 7 years, 5 to 7 years, 5 to 7 years, 5 to 7, 3, 2. every 1 year, every 3 times a year. Like it gets shorter and shorter the older and higher up you go. So it is a lifelong journey, and it does require persistence. And there are periods of moments where you're like, okay, I'm okay for now. This is good. And so it does require assuming personal responsibility, growing up, owning up to some of the things that you need to be doing. It takes a great amount of courage and a great amount of humility, because you will come up against systems that you have just been ingrained and brainwashed to believe in. Virtues, goals, ways of dealing with issues. This is how I was raised. This is what I've been told. Well, you're going to have to let that one go. Or this person has been my friend for the last 2 decades, but my energy is just not vibing with her anymore. Like we're just no longer the same person. Our path seems to be splitting, and they might ask you to grieve some of those losses, leave some of those relationships, leave that job, and be in that sort of abyss without knowing what's going to happen. It might ask that of you. So it is not for the faint-hearted, this journey. It will require some great courage, which means that you will have to have some self-management skills, because there will be headwinds that you will encounter, but there will always be tailwinds. You're never, ever alone on this journey. This I know to be true. When I didn't have my family, there were some people that just showed up, and people that you're like, I don't even know this person, and they just show up. And so the journey, if you commit to it, you will never be alone. But you will need to sort of go out and take a chance and be open-hearted about it. It will be about developing a self-regulation toolbox. You cannot do this without if you don't have good physical health, because it's gonna take your mind is gonna feel like it's in chaos. Your heart might feel completely shattered at times. Your body is gonna have to carry you through. So if you cannot commit to some of these disciplines, then you are going to come up against a whole lot more. You're going to contend with a whole lot more. So some of these internal headwinds are low self-awareness, low discipline, low self-esteem, these bad habits that we're all sort of engaged in, fixed mindset that this is just who I am and this is how I will always be. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a night person. I'm not a disciplined person. I'm not a whatever person. If you have this kind of fixed way of thinking about yourself, then this journey is not for you. We know from neuroscience, from spiritual sciences, all of these things, that we evolve and we have the potential to change. Like that, we can heal. We can, if we choose that journey. And so if you have that psychological rigidity, you're going to struggle a lot more. Difficult emotions, and if you don't know how to regulate, these are the internal noises that hold us back. Externally, we have distractions thanks to social media and streaming and this one and that one. Low physical energy is what I'm talking about. If you're, I don't want to work out. I'm just never been a workout person. Social media, COVID-19, obviously, if that's a real thing that happened to us, and it's still out there. Obstacles that come along your way, you will face them, and these are going to be your headwinds on this journey. You don't just surrender when these headwinds show up. You figure out what you're going to need to do in order to confront that. And then the tailwinds will be the things that will help you along the way. Inspiration, it will show up if you stay open-hearted. You will, somebody asked me, I had to do some video for, something, and they asked me, what inspires you? And I'm like, well, what doesn't? If I look and notice, everything inspires me. Flowers inspire me. My children inspire me. My husband inspires me. All these companies that are coming up with innovative solutions inspire me. Like, inspiration is everywhere for those who see. So look and notice, and you will feel that spirit. Inspired means to be inspirited. And that spirit, when you're connected to yours, connects with everybody else's too. So passion, value-centered decisions, when you make that, you're just going to feel like I did the right thing. And that doing the right thing, you're operating from a place of integrity where your mind, heart, body, soul all align. And there's freedom in that. So freedom, it pushes you forward. Playfulness. You can't take it so seriously, guys. Like, life is not meant to be that serious. Like, we're supposed to laugh at ourselves, and we're supposed to take light of things, and we're supposed to take things lightly. And so finding the lightness and the light is what this journey is about. Positive emotions, supportive family and friends, they're always there. Finding that one person, it doesn't have to be a whole tribe, but build your tribe if you have to. Education, learning, opportunities, these are all things that are going to help us externally. You're going to need solitude in your day. Stillness, silence, solitude, the 3 S's. You cannot think you're going to know anybody, yourself, or me, or your friend, or your mother, whoever you want to get to know. You got to spend time with them uninterrupted, in silence, in connection. So it's going to be important that you build in practices of meditation. I love this quote. Stillness is the altar of the spirit. The minute you still yourself, the spirit shows up. Really, it's like that. If you can still yourself enough. Now, coming from someone, as you can obviously see, I'm quite hyperactive, and this is just who I am, and this is how I show up. And so stillness is not so easy for some people, not just because they're externally distracted, but they're just hyperactive, and our brains are hyperactive. So it is a practice. I remember when I first started meditating, my sister told me, who can meditate for like 9 hours at a time, she said, 10 seconds, just do it for 10 seconds. And I said, I can do 10 seconds. And so I did 10 seconds, and off I go. And stillness, I had to stand and be still. I couldn't sit and be still. So I stood and be stilled. I looked in history and meditation and religions, there are standing meditations. So I was going to go with that. And then I did walking meditations. And then I finally found my way to sitting still. So writing down some of this stuff that works for you, what doesn't work for you, you got to figure out what works for you. What works for me is not going to work for you. What works for my sister doesn't work for me. What works for my mother doesn't work for me. So I had to do walking meditations and standing meditations and build my muscle from 10 seconds up. Journaling. I have some journal questions on my Instagram highlights, just reflective journaling. Who am I? Where am I? What makes me come to life? When was the last time I really felt excited about something? These are the things that are going to help you unpack and peel layers. Where am I stuck? Where do I need to grow up? These are all practices that are going to get you connected to that part of you. Write down your dreams, guys. It is your psyche speaking. Nothing that happens in our body and our mind is arbitrary. There is an intelligence inside of us. It's operating. And just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not of value. So just write it down. And at some point or another, it will start to speak. I remember when I first started writing down your dreams, and for those who say I don't remember my dreams, yeah, well, you're not remembering them because you're not paying attention, because I was one of those people. But we have about 7 to 8 dreams a night. And when you start to write your dreams down, you just write down whatever you can remember. So I remembered like a gate, and I'm walking over a threshold. That's all I remember. It was like one of these old mud houses, and I'm walking over a threshold, and I don't remember anything else. I do remember my dad being there. So dad, gate, threshold, mud house. That's it. So sometimes it might just be like flower or rainbow or whatever. And the more you pay attention, the more psyche shows you. And she says, okay, well, she's listening now, and more. So I literally am like rolling over in the middle of the night, typing my dreams. And in the midst of I don't even open my eyes. I don't turn on my light to write things down. I actually just type it out. And in the morning, I'm like, I don't know what that is, but it starts to come back to me. So dream catching is going to be important. Pay attention to your embodied emotions. Body is where the spirit is. Spirit is not in here. Your body will speak. Breathing, breath work, yoga, just get in contact with this part of you, especially men. Men are very disconnected to their physical body just because they're socialized that way, and they don't really need it that much in that sense, because it's just, they're very, very cerebral in the way they think. And I'm not, I'm just generalizing here. Obviously, there's many women that are very disconnected to their body, but women, generally speaking, tend to be a little bit more connected, just because there's a lot more going on in their bodies than that needs attention, and they give birth and so they have all of these systems that really pull them, and some hormones that really pull them back into their body quite often and out of their head. And so this kind of work is going to be very important. Knowing the difference between the feeling of sacrifice and self-betrayal, you're going to feel that in your body. Pay attention to embodied emotions, because feelings will tell you when something is right or wrong. They'll just tell, I didn't get a good sense. No, I didn't have a good feeling about this. But I'm not talking about this feeling. Oh, I got so excited. That's not the feeling I'm talking about. I'm talking about a deeper, quieter, stiller feeling. These are important, but that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about a deep feeling, and you guys can't see my hand, but it's down here. And if you have very strong emotions about something, that means it's pointing to a complex. So remember that if you have like an exaggerated response to something, journal it. We were all sitting around in this coffee morning, and man, I couldn't stand that woman. Everybody else seemed to be okay, but you had a very strong reaction. That's where you go. That's the entry point into your complex and into a wound and into a place that needs to be integrated. So whenever you have a strong reaction to something, good or bad, that's the point of entry. So I'm just giving you a hint here. And when I say know the meaning of sacrifice and self-betrayal, there will be times that you do something for someone and it's like, oh, I really don't want to go see my aunt today because she talks so much. And this is like, oh, well, I'm going to be authentic and I'm not going to go. No, it could be that, you know what? I'm going to choose to operate from my place of kindness and generosity. I'm going to give to her this attention that she so craves. And I'm consciously coming to this place. I am no longer betraying myself. So people pleasing, this whole idea that just throw people pleasing out, no, we are meant to please people. That's who we are. And people are meant to please us. But are we doing it unconsciously or are we doing it consciously? Am I doing it out of a place of fear or am I doing it out of a place of love? I please my husband or I please my kids or I please my friend, but I'm choosing that. I'm not thinking, oh my God, if I don't call her back, she's going to leave me. Difference. So please know the difference between some of these things. Some of these things taken for face value is leading to the world that we're living in, which is so polarized. And I mean, everybody sort of lost their way because they're just saying, well, I shouldn't people please, so I'm not going to people please, but that doesn't feel right. Listen to that part of you. Know your personas. The mask or the image that you show up in the world is your persona. We all have it. This is not how I'm like this most often, but if I'm by myself, you will see me in a very deep, sort of pensive, quiet look. I'm super introverted, which no one would guess. So this is the way I show up in the world. This is who I am. And I'm not acting, but this is just one of the ways that I am being. And my children see a different persona. So personas are who we would like to be or who we would wish to be or how we show up in the world or how we wish to be seen. And it's important we know that we are playing these roles, but it's important we don't get over-identified with those roles. There are, especially for men, again, who become over-identified with their role as a provider and their persona as a provider. And when they retire, it's like they are nothing else. They don't have any other persona, any other part of them developed. So becoming over-identified with any one persona, you're going to lose yourself. And mothers who just become overly identified with this mother role or persona, and then they say, I don't know who I am anymore. That's what I'm talking about. When you become over-identified with something, that's when it's an issue. It's not an issue that we have all of these ways we show up in the world. They help us adapt. They help us cope, but and they help us sort of engage with the world in a way that is socially acceptable. It's all good. But overly identifying and doing it unconsciously is where the issue is. So the authentic self will know, this is how I'm going to show up here today. This is how I'm going to be. You will encounter your shadow. I will go over the questions. I'm almost done, but the questions will probably go over. So I'm just saying. So you will encounter your shadow, and the shadow is the part of us that we all hide from people. For those of you who don't think you have a shadow, sorry guys, we all have one. The less you know about this part of you, the more control it has over you. And like I said, a good place to start, so the complexes sit in the shadow. A good place to start is where you have an exaggerated reaction to someone. I have people like messaging me sometimes on Instagram, like, this is wrong, and I can't believe you said this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what they're talking about. It's like, they have some sort of complex here that needs to be worked through. We all have it. So we all have parts of ourselves that we just don't want to name. We just don't want to show to the world. And when you learn to dialogue with that part of you, you integrate it into you. And then, for example, my anger was a shadow. Oh, like you would never, you're like, oh, she's so sweet. She looks so kind. She looks so nice. Oh man, I have a dragon inside of me. You know, I have other words that I could use, but just because I'm being recorded, I literally can unleash. And it was really erratic, and it would show up in places. And I was like, whoa, where is this anger? And then there was so much shame associated with that anger. I was never hurtful to another person, except maybe once or twice that I can remember. But I had this rage that would show up, and then I would lock it up in the bathroom and calm myself down and come back out. But I didn't understand it. Once I sat with it and said, what is this? Because I don't want to eliminate my anger. Because on the flip side of that anger is my passion. It's a life force. It's an energy. And anger is an emotion that tells me that some boundary of mine is being violated. That no, I don't want to do this. This is not right. Something wrong is happening to me, and I'm not okay with this. And I grew up in a culture where anger was just, you know, because there were so many things that a woman could do and could not do, obviously that was just made me a very angry person. And so I knew that I had more potential. So that's where a lot of my anger. So unpacking some of that, integrating that, and knowing that it is my life force. And whenever I'm angry, I pay attention. What is this about? Where am I feeling like something is unfair? Where is there an injustice happening here? And now it's integrated. So it becomes a voice of wisdom, rather than something I'm trying to shun away and block out and meditate away. So some additional things to consider is that create a board of advisors. You're not, sometimes you think that it's just one person that is going to help you on this journey. It's not. It's going to be a whole board. I have energy healers and my therapist and my husband and my friends who are really good listeners, because there's some friends that are not. I have people on my board that I go to and say, what do you think about this? And I'm needing to process this. And can you help me digest this? And all of that. So you need to create a whole team of people that are going to go on this journey with you. And you're going to tap into all of these things. Practicing self-compassion is going to be a very important thing. So obviously I'm not going into all of these things, but maybe in another talk. But self-compassion, going on this journey without self-compassion is almost, it's torture, because shame shows up and, oh my God, I was so angry and I'm so ashamed. I was so out of control. And if you can't just say, you are safe and it's okay, and, tell me what you learned, tell me how you feel. Like, if you can't do that, if you can't relate to yourself in that voice, then it's just going to be very painful for you. And then practicing rain, which we don't have time for today, but I want you to Google Tara Brach and rain. It's a rain meditation where you recognize, accept, integrate, investigate and integrate, and then nurture. So this is a way she sort of moves you through an emotion, and this is how you integrate. And I found it to be one of the most valuable tools for me on the journey of integrating some of my most difficult emotions. I already told you guys all of this. All of this part is part of your self-compassion. Minimize your interaction with toxic people. And yeah, we all have people in our lives that we are bound to by kin, and we cannot just eliminate these people from our lives, but we can minimize. And I have videos on my Instagram where I talk about empaths being able to sort of zip up their energy and go in a little bit more guarded. So there are ways you can interact with those people where you literally armor up, you ground, you heal, you meditate before you go in around those toxic people, so you don't lose your way, because they make us lose our way. They make us lose ourselves. When we say, well, you bring out the worst in me, it's really like you make me lose my higher self because you're just so irritating and annoying and toxic. But how about we don't lose our way and we stay grounded in ourselves? You're gonna need to give yourself sleep and play and exercise and all of these things. Post positive affirmations when you where you see them regularly. So I have them on my bathroom mirror. I have them on my phone screen. This is just, I am safe and I am enough and I have power and I am comfortable with my power. I use my power well. Time is on my side. These kinds of things where I feel like, oh my God, these kinds of ideas that I'm trying to challenge, these positive affirmations do work, and doing them in the mirror actually does something more. It's more about hardwiring them because of the mirror neurons that we have. So saying these things to yourself as you look at yourself dead in the eyes in the mirror is going to be very important. And take care of yourself as you take care of a child. We're so good at that. Oh, honey, what's wrong? Like, we can do that. Well, we can't do that to ourselves. What the hell is wrong with you? No, don't do that. Be kind, be soft, be gentle, be firm. This is how I am with my kids. I'll be firm. Like, nope, you're going to get up and you're going to go for a walk. You don't get to sleep in today. Okay, you can do that, but just be kind. And a lot of times people are like, help me get rid of my inner critic. I was like, I ain't getting rid of your inner critic, and you shouldn't get rid of your inner critic, because that inner critic got you where you are today. Why would I want you to give that away? But we do need to teach the inner critic that it needs to just speak a little bit nicely. So can you please say that in a nice way, is what I used to say to my inner critic. Now it doesn't speak so meanly anymore, but there are times when it does show up and it's like, can you just say that in a nice way? Because if I make a mistake on a presentation, it'll, oh, what the hell were you thinking? And it's like, can you just say that nicely? Okay, well, you need to prepare more. Okay, got you. And that's it. So it literally is like a conversation I'm having with this part of me. And so it's really about retraining your inner critic. I'm not going to go over this. One of my favorite psychologists is Carl Jung, and he said this quote, and it's the privilege of a lifetime to become who you truly are. And that is that. It really is to become who we truly are, rather than this conditioning and these, adoption of things that we don't, that don't resonate with us, and we know it. It really is about that. So that's all I got for you guys. These are the two Instagram channels that I contribute to. And obviously for parents, we recommend these two as well. If you have teenagers, I recommend this one. You follow them and make them follow it too, because we really speak to teens here in this space. So these are all the different channels you can follow. And now I would be happy to answer your questions. Okay, come on, guys. It just literally took me 1 hour. Anyways, I'll be here for the next 10 minutes. Yes, I will be sharing the recording. So I'm now reading questions, so I'm not zoning out. So stay with me. Is that one, should know oneself or search for, I don't understand that question. So staying true to your authentic self often creates isolation. What tools or advice would you give in managing such isolations in the journey. There will always be people that your soul resonates with when you are on this journey. This is just what I found. And even in my darkest night, when I really, really, really did feel all alone, like literally there was nobody, there was still one person. And it's really going out there, and they may not be part of your already existing social or familial life, but it is someone that you are going to resonate with. And we now have access to online communities. There will be people that will be on the same path as you, and they will be your person for that part of the journey. They may not stay there after that little part, but like I say, some come for, or like it is said, some come for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So we don't know who these people will be and why they're in your life and how long they will stay there, but they're there. You just have to look and open yourself and open your heart, because the open heart is really part of the process. I'm learning that more and more, that when the heart is open, you literally will attract those people. So doing a lot of these meditations and energy healings and these types of things is going to be an important part of keeping that heart open, as it is a very scary process and we just want to hide and close up. So how does one go about finding a mentor? I don't know. I think it's really being curious and open, and I think going to places, like going to classes or retreats or groups where people are on a similar path, you will find your mentor. I just want to warn you that do not give your power away to your mentor. It really is a collaborative process, and you know more than you think, but it is really about having a guide who might have been on this path before, and you can just feel it, that you're like, she's been here, she's done this work, and that person can then be with you. And you will feel that, you will sense that. And so trust that sense. And maybe you will be enamored by someone who is a mentor, but, and then you are like, wait, no, not really. Okay, you take what you learn from this person and move on, and then go to another person and take what you can and move on. I had multiple therapists before I landed on the one that really sort of resonated with me. I had one for 1 year, and then I had another one for 1.5 years. And, I went and I did the work, but I was like, no, something. And then I asked this person, and then I asked this person who led me to that person who led me. So it's sometimes really like, being like dating. You really have to meet a lot of people before you can come and land on the one that you're going to be with for the next part of your journey. And so as a therapist, it took me 3 tries before I landed on the one that was going to be with me. And I will be with her until she takes me as far as I can go. And then I'll know this is as far as we're going to go. I need now something different to take me a little bit further. But I usually say, have a board, have a group. So my energy healer will give me this part of the advice or this message, and this person will give me this message. My meditation teacher will give me this message. My therapist will give me this message. So the book will give me this message. So I am getting messages, and then my job is to sort of sit alone and integrate them. But taking that alone time is a very important part of this process. Yes. So dream catching is important. When I wake up, I can remember my dream like twice a year. What do I do? So I think I mentioned it. Just write down whatever it is you can remember. And before you go to sleep at night. And this is actually in the Islamic faith as well, which it says, we ask for a dream. Give me a dream, Psyche. So when I'm supposed to make a big decision, I ask for a dream. I ask Psyche for a dream. You know, we're building a new system for our clinic, and we want to name the system. And we said, what should we name her? And her, I don't know what it is. And so we said, let's ask for a dream. And so now tonight we're all supposed to go and ask for a dream, which will tell us what we should name our system. So this is how you use it. It's a very creative process. If you start dreaming, tell me what I'm supposed to know. There is so much intelligence in us. So yeah. Yep. So there are just some of these are comments. I think I mentioned the tribe one. What is a good way to start? Good way to start. I would say start with meditation. As the quote says, stillness is the altar of the spirit. That would be a good place. Start to still yourself. In stillness, you will find everything there is to know. And then I would also recommend, we do these energy meditations. My sister Madiha, she, has, she works with energy, but she's also a bona fide psychologist from the United States. And so maybe going to some of these groups and doing some energy work, that might help you tap into other parts of you. But I would say start with meditation, journaling, and reflective questions. And don't be frustrated be frustrated and get on with it. Physical movement is going to be also very good. So if you don't have physical movement as part of your practice, I would recommend doing something related to physical movement, because our energy needs to unlock in order for things to surface. So stillness and movement is probably where I would start. You mentioned that finding yourself is an ing process, so transforming, and you sort of never reach this place that you are yourself, your whole self, journey towards wholeness. Yes. So, and if you do, so she said you never reach, and if you do, how do you know that you've reached your true authentic self? You'll know. You'll just know. You will be more in your power. You will be less influenced by negativity. You will be hurt. There'll be people that say something to you, but you're not like derailed and obsessed. When you work from a place of, intention and consideration. You don't just, you're not reactive, you're responding. Let me sort of quantify this a little bit more. You have more calmness inside of you because you're less reactive, because there's more power in you than outside of you. So because right now, most of us have given a lot of our power away. And so that bit is driving us. So we get pulled in this direction, and this person says something, and this person says something, and this person gives me feedback at work, and this email comes in. And so we're literally getting pulled, and we don't have peace. We don't have any steadiness. We don't feel grounded. And so when you start to take that power, which comes from doing this work, when you take that power and you heal that wound, and you heal this wound, and you heal that wound, and you realize that you're too identified in that relationship, or you're too one-sided, or any of these things that go along with a journey of self-discovery and self-knowing, the power starts to be more focused and sort of localized inside of you. Then when that person pulls, you look and you say, so imagine a cord going out. There's no more cords. With every wound you heal, with every realization you have, with everything you sort of integrate and unlock, there's less cords outside of you. And then they might say, well, I need you to do this urgently. And you say, well, I can do it by Thursday. And if you're okay with that, let me know. And you're not like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like, you know, it doesn't have that obsessive quality. So this is what inner peace looks like. And you will know when you feel it. Just like if I told you, do you know what peace feels like? Most people would say, yeah, it's quiet and it's less reactive and it's less agitated and it's less restless. That's how you will live if you are more connected with that part of you. And meditation, I know, so irritating because I was like, oh, like, don't make me meditate, make me do anything, but don't make me meditate. But it is really the path because it helps with brain integration. It helps with shrinking the part of our brain that is reactive, less focused, distracted. That's what meditation helps us do. So if we know that that's what I need to do in order to get underneath that, the road to that part of me is paved with that discipline. So someone said, can the dream make you feel like you are on the right path? If I'm not going to answer that question. You really have to know how to work with dreams. And the more you write them down and the more you see their wisdom and the more you see their patterns and work with someone who works with dreams, then I would say start to, you know, use them. But the way I would do it is I would ask the dream, okay, tell me what we should call our system. And I would say, please, Psyche, give me a dream. And then I would go to sleep and I might see, I don't know, Oasis or something. And I would say, maybe we can call it Oasis. And I would take that back to the team and see what other people came up with. And that's kind of how we would come up with it. So Oasis is not a bad name though. So somebody said, what's the first question you would ask yourself in the quest of finding? I think the questions that, you know, come on, man, guys, go easy on me here. These are like some seriously loaded questions, but I would probably, and I've written a post about this today, is where am I stuck? And where do I need to grow up? And what are the wounds I need to heal? And you might not know what the wounds are, but maybe you can say, who do I need to forgive? That'll take you to your wounds. And I'm not saying you should forgive, by the way. I'm just saying, if you ask yourself the question, it'll take you to the wounds. Heal the wounds, the forgiveness will happen. Sometimes, you know, it's like, I remember having like seriously like violent reactions to people who told me to forgive people who hurt me. I don't want to forgive. No way am I going to give them anything other than what they've already, you know, like I'm not. So it took me over 40 years to figure out the wound needs to heal. The person came into your life to trigger a wound. Don't get obsessed about the person. Heal the wound. And then the forgiveness doesn't even matter. I forgive you. I don't give you whatever, but it doesn't matter anymore. They don't have the power anymore. So that kind of locked into, I'm not going to forgive them. That's energy going in that direction. I'm going to put that energy into healing my wound. And I swear, guys, it literally took me over 40 years to figure this one out. No one told me you are supposed to heal the wound and then the forgiveness happens. So make the intention to heal whatever pain they caused you. That's it. And eventually when you heal, you say, I might, you know, I actually even ended up, I mean, I didn't say it to them, but I actually thanked the person inside of my heart, because if it wasn't for this person, this trauma that surfaced as a result of this person, which was linked to early life, would never have happened. It linked to a complex that I had about not being loved and being abandoned and being rejected. This is the work. She just showed up to bring it to the surface. So don't worry about the other person. Don't worry about forgiving the other person. Just get on with the healing and go to the wound. And every time you heal a wound, guys, there's power that comes back into you. And that cord drops, and that power is pulled in, and that power is pulled in. Imagine how much power we give away to our struggles and to our complexes. You unleash power, you reclaim power, and that's how you come into your power. And you will know it when you're in it. You'll just know it. Okay, guys, I think I've answered all your questions. If I haven't, please not WhatsApp me. Don't WhatsApp me. My WhatsApp looks like my inbox right now, but DM me and I will either answer your question on a video because maybe other people have that question, or I will direct message you. So thank you all for being here. You guys will get a link to this. And I thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I wish you a really good rest of the week and a good weekend. Bye, guys.